My name is Kalle Varisvirta. I'm the technology director at EXO. I'm going to talk a bit about serving the Internet of Things with Drupal. Now, Internet of Things is a buzzword, so I'm going to describe what I mean by it in this presentation. I'm going to also give you some examples of what I'm exactly talking about here. Then we're going to talk a bit about how can Drupal serve the Internet of Things. What can Drupal offer that's needed by the Internet of Things, and then we'll take a short plunge into Drupal architectures, and that's kind of just my experience on how Drupal architectures have evolved over time. It's getting a bit more complex and a bit more mature to be working in a complex environment. And then we're going to talk a bit on how it's actually done and maybe a bit about where next. The key here, however, is to open up a bit on, I hope, your idea and horizons on what you can do with Drupal, what you should be doing with Drupal, what you can offer Drupal for, and what are the benefits of that. Now, this is not a technical session. I'm not going to go into details on how to exactly implement a certain integration to Drupal. I'm going to show you some architecture drawings though, but so some Drupal knowledge is needed, but this is on the business track and it belongs to it. So, what's my definition of Internet of Things? It's a generic term on things gaining internet connection that previously didn't have them. We used to have, originally our computers were only the ones that had internet connections. Then our smartphones started to have internet connections. Now, more and more devices and different systems, whether it's consumer level or industrial systems, they are gaining internet connections. There's quite a lot of stuff happening constantly in home automation, energy equipment, wearables, but also like consumer stuff that you didn't used to have internet connections for. I'm going to show you some examples, but these keep popping up. So I've been following this for a while now. What's happening on this side? And it's almost virtually impossible to follow on what kind of products are on the market. Now, what comes first to mind is Nest, which has been there for a while. It's a mature product. It's a learning thermostat, or basically it's a control device to your home automation. It can control quite a lot of stuff these days, but essentially, originally, it was just a thing that learns your habits and then tunes your heating or cooling accordingly. And then, there's stuff like trash bins that call home when they need to be emptied. This is the regular stuff. This is stuff that's already there. The trash can you're using might be connected via some kind of device. This Inivo is a product that can be attached to an existing waste container. So it just has a GSM chip, and it'll call home when it needs to be emptied, and it'll estimate the time as well. Then there's the Samsung fridges that connect. People ask me when I say that Samsung fridges, they were hacked. I guess this week or last week.
This week or last week.
Yeah. And it was due to the fact that they didn't check for certificates really. So when
they used the certificate, but they didn't actually check the validity of the certificate.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So they connect to your Google Calendar, so an attacker can get your Google passwords and accounts. The funny thing is this is not that one, unfortunately, but there's one that was called the T9000. It totally sounded like a product from Skynet. So coincidence? I think not. And then there's the tracking point, also a hacked Internet of Things product. It's a rifle that auto aims. You can paint it to aim. You can actually stream the video from the viewfinder to your smart TV app, which I find no use for. But
like why would you, if you're actually in a combat situation, why would you ever want that?
Well, apparently it's a hunting rifle, so it's for
Oh, okay.
So it's.
Can you remotely trigger it, or what?
No, you can't remotely trigger it. It's as far as I know, you can't actually trigger it via the internet, but you can aim it. And the hackers.
At the moment, you cannot trigger it remotely.
Yeah. But the hackers can re-aim it without you knowing it, so which is handy. So why does your fridge need, or what does your fridge need Drupal for? So that's the key. What do you offer? So this is, you all know that what Drupal offers, but let me give you an example. Put that into perspective with this. So we're talking about your fridge back home. It offers a platform for content. So if your fridge wants to show you product information from a grocery store online app, so where you can order more food. Well, you're close to your fridge, you know what's missing, or the fridge knows what's missing. I don't know how intelligent they are, but you need your product information to be shown on the fridge. Controllable data, data structures, so you can actually store, for instance, food recipes for what you can do from the food that's already in your fridge. So it can give you a bit of pointers on the screen what you can do with it. It offers fine-grained user access control. So you can use it to control the access to the shop that has your credit card stored. Online store, that's redundant. We already talked about the grocery store you want to connect with your fridge. And then user-generated content, because obviously you'd want that particular milk that was really highly rated by your peers. That's really popular these days. Peer evaluations. So Drupal was built as a web content management system. But due to its flexibility in storing data, storing content, and integrations that it allows, which Drupal is good in, it's becoming much more. As a platform, it can be used in multiple roles. Headless Drupal is popular these days. So when you remove the front end from Drupal, you just have the back end. It's like a back end of a headless Drupal. Drupal 7, for instance, is built to return HTML for get or post requests to the server, but Drupal 8, you can choose on what it returns. So it can return also JSON, for instance. It's really Drupal specific, but it can return JSON. For earlier Drupals like Drupal 7, which is out right now, and truthfully, what I heard during this camp, I'm not sure when Drupal 8 is going to be out. Let's not go into that. You can ask Laura for more. Drupal 7, you can still make it work so that you can get data out easily. And I guess there's a session about REST interfaces after this session in the development track. Headless Drupal, what people aim it for is to use all the coolest of front-end technologies. I guess it's React and stuff like that. But if you remove the head, you don't have to build it yourself. You can connect to a device that uses the information or the data to do something else. So now let's take a plunge within Drupal architectures. So what we start from is a website built with Drupal. That's something that we mostly do still these days, but usually we get to the point where we need a couple of integrations, something, maybe a ERP or a CRM on the back end, maybe SSO, something extra. And then we realized that there's a mobile native app maybe. We have to serve it with the ready-made HTML or a JSON view, for instance, so that the app can control the display of content in it. And then you go to the Headless Drupal, you think that, truthfully we can do the whole front end with JavaScript and get more flexibility out of the system. So then you go with a Headless Drupal. So at this point, you're suddenly in a situation where you can just open up your REST interface to the world and let everything integrate. And since this is a non-technical presentation, I don't have to talk about any problems in that. I just tell it you can do it. Obviously, it's not the same as connecting to a trusted front end with a trusted way of displaying stuff. You can store secrets and stuff between them, or do your specific changes on your REST API because you control the front ends. But when you're in a world where anyone can connect, you just give out API keys. At some point, you're going to be in a situation where you have to be really careful on what you change on the REST API. And then there's the something else thing where Drupal moves as a backend system to serve content to a delivery platform. I'm going to come back to this a bit later because it actually is significant in a way, although, I don't know how popular it is these days, but I think it's going to be gaining popularity, especially with Drupal 8, but already with Drupal 7. So let's look at some examples. I have an example Internet of Things thing that we're building right now, but since it's not done yet and not a public reference, I'm not going to talk about it yet. When it's done and working, we can go through an actual example. I can tell you as a hint that it's none of these. But let's think Drupal for a while. So we have a health monitoring service. We have a smart tracking device that stores data to Drupal. Then you have your health app that it can sync to via the REST interface. Sometimes these actually are connected via Bluetooth, but doesn't make a difference as to the architecture. And then there's the web app with graphs and diary functionality and stuff. This is really typical for smart tracking devices these days, which are hugely popular. I should have mine in my wrist, but I don't know where it is. Totally doable with Drupal. when someone asks you to do this, you can say that, oh, we can do it with Drupal, because you can. Self-service gym. This is kind of, trying to push it a bit further away. There's quite a lot of smart locks available these days. There are locks that you can open via the internet. Sounds a bit spooky, especially if you lose your mobile phone because you use it for unlocking your house. But I read in the FAQ of one, it said that you just need to borrow someone else's phone and then log in with your password, and then you can open your door. Sounds convenient. Or just break the window, that's other option. Think about a smart lock to a gym where you need some kind of a control of who gets in, self-service gym. You need some control of who gets in, but you don't have to be super strict about it. It just needs to be inconvenient to sneak into the gym, because we just want to build for memberships. You don't want to pay for a security guard standing there. So you just want some kind of a system to make sure that you get in only with a certain Drupal user. So you go to your mobile site, open the lock, and then the lock opens magically. Okay, that's totally possible with Drupal again. You have your credit card stored in the system. You have your customer relationship management tool connected. And then there's the online store for connected fridges. Again, not that complicated. I guess the Samsung fridges have their own apps. I don't know when, at least for TVs, it's really problematic to build apps. I don't know how many of you have ever been involved in an environment where there are apps for smart TVs, but the smart TVs, every year they change, the apps break, the support they have for certain different standards, especially video streaming, it's really problematic these days. I hope that the fridges won't be another territory where you just have to buy Samsung if you have your coolest apps there to get your certain apps. TVs, I hope, are going towards some generic platform. But that's not the problem of Drupal, obviously, just, server REST interface. How is it actually done? When you serve machines, you have, Drupal 7 modules for its services, for instance, there's more than that as well. Drupal 8 ships with a REST module in core. You can just turn it on, and then when you turn it on, then you can request pages as JSON. It'll give you pages as JSON, although the way you request them it just changed this summer, so I wouldn't be building production stuff with Drupal 8 yet. So just make sure it stabilizes first. Drupal 7, it's easy. It's in services module, again, it's like clicking stuff and you can get your data out. And you can make a REST interface release simply with that approach. Well, if you just turn on the modules and turn your REST interface on, the REST API that Drupal serves out, for instance, in Drupal 8 is really Drupal specific. It gives you all that Drupal internal stuff that's so familiar to you and so unfamiliar to anyone, currently employed as building TV apps or fridge apps. So I suggest you think of a good REST interface and try to implement that with Drupal when you start doing stuff like this. So don't just turn it on and say that, well, you can connect to it and there's like fields that you don't need to worry about, like undefined languages and shit. It's,
So Restify Drupal module RESTful USP on USP.
I'm not sure, did I miss that? I don't remember the name. I always use services. Is it RESTful?
Yeah.
My bad, sorry. So if you build a REST tape, and now there's a REST presentation after this in the development track, as far as I know. So I just have a couple of slides on REST. So you just need to document them well. You need to have versioning. You need to have security. Those are the things that you might not have while you're doing your own front ends. But if you're doing front ends by someone else or allowing anyone to connect, you just need to have a proper REST API. And follow the rules. It needs to be, stateless. Above all, stateless. And sometimes the open API with proper documentation is just not enough. Sometimes you need to integrate to a machine with your Drupal because you're the little guy trying to make some cool new thing, and then the manufacturer of hundreds of connected devices doesn't really want to connect to your stuff at all. You'll just have to, dance their dance or, sing their tunes. So then when you start connecting to machines with Drupal, that's kind of a different ballgame, because if you start connecting that way, it's totally different than connecting to services running on servers in server halls. And it's, I guess one of our customers said sometimes that you don't know which week there's an internet connection there when you connect. So you have to try until you find that week when the internet connection is working. So you have to combine appalling reliability with poor to useless network bandwidth, and you might be connecting to 10,000 units. Or they connect to you, by the way. If you have 10,000 machines calling you every 1 minute, then that's quite a lot of calls coming your way also. And when connecting to machines, I would always think for a while how to do a proper connection architecture. Simple architectures like queuing is like mandatory, so you really don't know if the call is going to go through. But then you should have queuing if you have essential data going to a server, because that connection can also fail. More elegant approach, you have some design patterns available, like messaging systems or observer patterns or publish, subscribe, like channel kind of thing that you can do. You can implement these. All these are just design patterns, but these are something that might be really useful when you have a lot of stuff on the other end. But then let's talk for a while about content as a service, because normally the service we provide is a website. We provide as a service to the customer, which is the browser website, which is a fully blown representation of content. Sometimes you just need to use Drupal only for content management as a content repository, and it totally works for that too. You can just use it to create and manage your content, and then let it index it outside, and then serve it with a platform which has some qualities that makes it more suitable to build an API. I have talked about accelerating Headless Drupal with Node.js in multiple occasions, and you can probably look it up on the YouTube. But that's one thing where I mentioned how you can accelerate your content distribution with. It's mostly directed to headless, but it also works here. And here's a brief listing about that. Is you can index your content outside. There's a MongoDB indexer module that we made for this a while ago. We found it really useful for multiple occasions. It just indexes all your Drupal content to a MongoDB collection, and then you can access it with whatever you use for distributing the content. You can use a MongoDB, you can use Solar. Solar is really good if you don't have to write to it often, because it's well indexed in it. Elasticsearch, Redis, if you don't need a lot of search parameters, you just need a key value storage. writes, you can either write directly to the services API and let it be slow, or you can just queue them in the acceleration layer if there's a lot of stuff coming your way. And the acceleration layer is built performance oriented usually, or whatever oriented if you want to. I don't mind, but we use Node.js regularly for this. Remember this? I mentioned I'm going to come back to this. This is the acceleration layer here. It just uses Drupal's data to push out stuff to the outside now. This is kind of like how things happen in real big enterprises these days if you use Drupal for the content distribution. You might also have Drupal site here. It doesn't mean that it can't be here, but it also has Drupal behind here. Why would you build an external API now? You can have full control over it. Basically, you can aggregate a mix of data from different sources. You can have your Drupal, but you can have also your ERP, CRM, whatever. So you can aggregate products and their information. You can aggregate product availability, product pricing, product images, and product descriptions to a single REST call where you can get products. And you'll get blazing performance if you do it right. Here's an actual Node.js REST backend, serving quite well. It's running on 3 machines, but still, it does about 13,000 requests per second, and then we ran out of credits on the load machine because they take a lot of credits when you have a lot of users. Anyway. So, taking Drupal to the enterprise, this is kind of, maybe the what's next part. When you try to push Drupal to the enterprise background system level, you might find resistance in the enterprise architects who think it's their, Windows world what they live in. It's their stuff. They don't want like some hippie open source stuff on their backend. So the hippie open source stuff can stay on the front end, but they want their enterprisey stuff there. Obviously, if you go look deep enough to an enterprise backend, you'll find stuff stored in, Access, for instance. Unfortunately, that's, totally beatable by Drupal easily. But sometimes you really have to. You have to make a case for Drupal to be accepted as a content repository on the backend. Even though they still, you think about when you store it to the backend, you can't access it outside their corporate network where you can't access it anyway, because they always lock the admin pages of Drupal implementations to their corporate networks anyway. So that doesn't make any difference. So they can easily just store it to their corporate environment. But we definitely need more reference implementations where Drupal is serving as a content repository for an enterprise. I like to use them. I like to see them. I'd also like to hear, experiences of using them. And when we get a couple of things done, I'll also tell you guys how it's going. But I totally think it's doable. So this is the fun ending part. Easy said, simply done. This all sounded so complicated, right? And you'd really like to try it yourself. Hey, you can still connect your Drupal to the Internet of Things if you like to. Use if service, if if then this, then whatever it is. It's now called if this, then that. Well, that played it for everybody. This and that. But it's called if, I guess, these days. They changed the name. So you can just use if to connect to your home automation. they connect to all around. And if you want to connect it to Drupal, it reads RSS feeds. You can push email to it, and there's no open API for it, so you can't create a trigger of your own. And that's it, I'm done. Thank you. So, questions?
Taking Drupal to the enterprises, how hard is it nowadays to convince those people to adopt Drupal?
Well, I guess it's easier to sell it for a front end these days. If you sell it as a website for the enterprise, that's easy. You can convince them by the number of users, by the market share of Drupal, or by its cool references around the world, because Drupal has really good references. But to get it, stored on the back end to control a lot of their data, it's not hard for the people who generate the data. For instance, the marketing people who actually create that, because currently they do it only for their online, maybe online service, or then they have some product information documentation, actual documents on the backends that they can print out or get printed or something like that. But the enterprise architects will, question your sanity when you ask for a Drupal to be the sole source of content in their system. Anyone else?
So you think that the Drupal is like a better option for enterprises than if this and that? Because I think that if this and that is more for personal use.
As I said, it was an ending for a session that had a lot of complicated architecture drawings. I added it as a thing to get started on that, on thinking of how you can
use the closest thing to get the understanding.
Yeah, closest thing to get, and also the easiest way of getting your Drupal connected to your stuff, because you can turn off and on your lights on your home with a Drupal with that if you want to.
But is the Drupal kind of much more complicated or difficult to implement? Because I've used this and that. It's made it like really easy, and I think that the key why it has been so successful is that it's so easy to do these things, and it has a pretty wide range of apps and APIs connected to it. So.
Yeah, but I mean, the key isn't here about how a consumer connects, because they don't do Drupal. It's a service provider that you provide to a company. So in a case, what I was talking about for the beginning part of the presentation, it's a situation where usually there's a company with a product that is connected that doesn't have a way to connect. If you would have your Drupal implementation that would connect to the devices, say the devices would read your Drupal message queues or something like that to do whatever tricks they do, because it can be anything, then your if triggers would be connected only to that Drupal, because that's the way to connect to your devices.
Does the if have a kind of API?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't yet.
Yeah. They said in 2013 that it doesn't yet. Well, also Tree said in 2011. Let's not go into that. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.